Donald Trump's surrogates are crashing and burning on live TV as they can't defend the indefensible. Donald Trump's war in Iran is an absolute disaster. Notably, where the heck is Marco Rubio? Notably, where the heck is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs? Notably, we don't see Pete Hegseth doing any interviews other than those bizarre propaganda fests he's doing now at the Pentagon in front of those far right-wing extremist podcasters. So what's Donald Trump doing? He's sending surrogates out like Senator Rick Scott of Florida, and he's out there on CNN and doing other TV networks, and he's saying, look, yeah, is gas price skyrocketing? Can people not afford anything? But this is the pain we need to engage in and we need to feel in order to really be patriotic. Watch for yourself. Here, play this clip.
Look, I want oil prices to come down, but guess what? I want this country to be safe. This president's doing the right thing for our safety. Is there a short-term hurt by gas prices being up? Absolutely. And it hurts everybody, including mostly the poorest families. So
how long do you think those families could be paying more in gas? What do you think they should be prepared for?
I have no idea how long this is going to take, but the most important thing is we've got to destroy their ability to kill us. That's the most important thing. And prices will come down.
And then you have MAGA Republican Senator John Husted, one of Donald Trump's surrogates out there. By the way, he's up for re-election and he's losing right now in that re-election Ohio bid. Democrats are surging in Ohio. And Husted's like, you know, this is all Joe Biden's fault right now. Joe Biden and his Green New Deal, that's the reason why we're in Iran right now. And that's why Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz, because the Green New Deal. What? Here, play this clip.
And essentially, you know, Joe Biden and his entire team with the Green New Deal helped really put groups like Iran and their ability to finance wars and not stand up to them as they crossed red lines time after time. And now President Trump is having to fix the problems of the past. It was the failures of two Democrat presidents that put us in a position today where Iran had the capacity to make a nuclear weapon. They had the ability to send ballistic missiles into their neighbors. They had the drones and the capacity to cut off the Strait of Hormuz. And now President Trump is having to remedy those problems.
Okay, let's get your
Then you had Caroline Leavitt saying, and we need Europe and NATO to be involved. What are you doing? We need your help. Here, play this clip.
So yes, the president is speaking with our allies in Europe and also many of our partners in the Gulf and Arab world to encourage them to step up to do more to open the Strait of Hormuz. And our NATO allies especially need to step up. Look, President Trump has been very, very frank with our friends in NATO for a very long time. He got them to increase their defense spending up to 5%, and now he's calling on them to do the right thing because, again, the United States of America is leading the way, not just to support and protect our American assets and bases in the Middle East, but also to defend Europe and the Middle East and the rest of the world from the rogue Iranian regime from obtaining a nuclear bomb.
Caroline, Democrats.
So then Donald Trump has to turn to Laura Ingraham, one of his chief propagandists on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, and she thinks it will be useful, and this is what she and Donald Trump are coordinating, attack NATO and attack EU and refer to it as a sham marriage. That's what they're going with on state regime, that NATO and the European Union and what used to be powerful alliances between them and the United States, it's one big sham marriage because they never thank their daddy. Why? They're married to their daddy? What are you even talking? Doesn't that tell you everything in state regime media? Some married to their dad. What are you even talking about? You see what I mean? They're crashing and burning. Watch Laura Ingraham right here. These people are utterly collapsing right now. Here, play this clip.
Right. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, EU nations begged us for an alliance because they were worried that Putin wouldn't stop in Ukraine. They needed daddy's wallet and daddy's munitions. But for decades before that, those same countries had also been free riding on the backs of our military and our taxpayers. It was only when Donald Trump called them out to their faces for their failure to meet their NATO military requirements did they begin to contribute more to their own defense. And they pay, but they do so grudgingly. And some of them still aren't paying up. Now, you've heard of sham marriages. This has been a sham alliance.
Now, speaking of collapsing and crashing and burning, then you've got this guy on state regime media, Greg Gutfeld, who's like, oh, now Democrats know words? They're saying that this is a war when it's not a war? What about penises and vaginas? Do Democrats know what a man is or what a woman is? I mean, this is so utterly pathetic. We're in a disastrous war. Over 200 of our service members have been injured. Many have been seriously injured. 13 are dead. We're in a protracted, never-ending war in Iran right now. America is economically suffering, and this is the filth they're talking about on state regime media. Here, watch this.
And I do love the fact that, like, how, no offense, Harold, how Democrats are really sticklers about language. They certainly can identify a war, but try to pin them on the definition of a woman. Like, oh, I know what a war is. Why would you say war? Okay, well, what you say what a woman is first, and then we'll work on war.
I can tell you.
I know. Well, you're different. You're a normal human being.
Now back to Senator Scott on CNN. He's asked by Caitlin Collins, so do you think that the U.S. needs Europe's help? Why is Donald Trump asking for it? And then Senator Scott's like, of course we don't need their help. Okay, well then why are we asking for it? Well, they should want to help because they're impacted more than us. This doesn't impact us at all. We have all the oil we need. Just stop treating us all like we're stupid, okay? The oil markets in America are impacted by the international oil markets. We all know the price of gas is going up significantly because this is all interconnected. Just stop the BS. All you do is fraud. And by the way, Rick Scott here, whose clips I'm playing, he was involved in one of the biggest Medicare and Medicaid frauds in American history. He invoked the Fifth Amendment hundreds of times. He got a golden parachute leaving a company that engaged in criminal Medicaid and Medicare fraud and pled to it. Here, play this clip.
But what the German government said today is that the United States and Israel didn't consult them before the war, and they said Washington explicitly stated that the European assistance was not necessary or desired. Do you think the United States needs Europe's help, as the president has made the case today, or he also moments later argued that they don't need their help?
Well, of course we don't need their help. We have the strongest military in the world.
But he's asking for their help.
Well, it's in their best interest. I mean, the rest of the world's way is dependent. We're not dependent, so they can show up or not show up. If they want oil to flow and they want oil prices to come down faster, then they're going to show up. If they don't, they're the ones that are going to be harmed. We will get oil prices to come down. Look, the Democrats, wanted to raise oil prices. They tried to destroy the oil and gas industry. Thank God for President Trump in his first term and this term. We have now more oil. We are energy independent.
And by the way, this guy, Rick Scott, is who the Republicans have as their health care guy, the guy who invoked the Fifth Amendment on health care fraud. Doesn't that tell you everything? Isn't that so perfectly MAGA? Ugh. Here he is again with Caitlin Collins, and she says, well, Donald Trump's now talking about taking Cuba and how Cuba's not in the hurricane zone, even though, have you heard of Irma, and that it is, that he loves to take it, and Cuba belongs to him now. So what do you make of that when he says take it? Rick Scott's like, oh, he means bring democracy to Cuba? No, he doesn't. The Trump regime plan is just to continue the Castro regime the same way they continued the Maduro regime. The same way the Chavistas continue to control Venezuela. Donald Trump's plan in Cuba is to continue the Castro regime. Just pick someone who will give Donald Trump their oil so he could put it into his bank accounts in Qatar. Oh, wait a minute. Not sure those are going to exist anymore after your disastrous war in Iran. Here, play this clip.
But when the president says, take Cuba, what do you think he means by that?
Well, what I hope he means is that we're going to get a democracy where the people of Cuba pick their leaders. That would be, it's a beautiful island. Actually, I served there for a few months when I was in the Navy at Guantanamo Bay. So it's a beautiful island, wonderful people. A lot of people are in Florida, especially Miami.
Really more of this Rick Scott guy being asked by Caitlin Collins. Well, Didn't Donald Trump say he obliterated the nuclear weapons? So why do you say we're going after the nuclear weapons if we obliterated it last year? And Rick Scott's like, well, by obliterated, we mean not obliterated. Okay, play this clip.
But the president argued, I mean, some people might hear that and they're paying 30% more for gas. And they heard the president make the case last summer and criticize people who reported on the outcome of those strikes, that the program was obliterated then. So people may say, well, why are we at war with them now if it was obliterated then?
Well, because they were rebuilding their program, because they said they had enriched uranium, and because they were building ballistic missile weapons, the missiles and the ability to carry those to the United States, and they were putting our troops at risk. That's why.
Now, contrast that to Donald Trump's old top surrogate, his former top surrogate, I should say, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she's on just blasting Donald Trump 24/7 right now on CNN. So after like Rick Scott goes, Marjorie Taylor Greene goes and just calls out Trump and these Republicans. And she's like, this ain't a monarchy. What the hell are we doing? Watch Marjorie Taylor Greene rip all of these people to shreds. Can't believe I'm saying that. Here, play this clip.
But I'll go further. It's unfortunate to see this Congress sit there and repeatedly bend over backwards to the loyalty test put on them by the White House and the administration. You know, representatives in the House of Representatives, they are elected to represent their district and the people that sent them, not the administration and not a president. That would be a monarchy. This is not a monarchy. This is a constitutional republic with elected representatives. And so for these members of Congress to totally cast into the wind what their districts want, what's important for their districts, just in order to make sure they don't get a nasty Truth Social post dropped on them, I think is absolutely pathetic and wrong. And so I think that Congress needs to reclaim its authority as a legislature and carry out its business and remember the districts that sent them.
Then Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, why are you even, like, even if, like, why are you doing this before the midterms even? Like, don't you realize how, one, how unlawful it is, but two, just even at a political level, you're doing all this right before the midterms? Here, play this clip.
I completely disagree where the president has led the country. You know what? It makes absolutely no sense, Pamela, going into midterm elections. Let's remove Donald Trump out of it. Let's just put any president in there. Why would an American president lead his political party into the midterms, waging a full-scale major war, completely unprovoked on Iran, on behalf of Israel? And that's the way most Americans see it. They see this is for Israel, not for America. Why would an American president do that, which is forcing gas prices to hike right here going into spring break where families are going to be driving out of town, going into summer, declaring and waging a major full-scale war that seems to have no end in sight, that is not de-escalating, it's escalating every single day. And it just doesn't make sense. And the American people did not vote for this. This is not what we campaigned for, Pamela. I went to, I can't even tell you, countless rallies all over the country for President Trump, campaigning for him and Republicans because we wanted to win. And we said on every single rally stage, no more foreign wars, no more regime change. It's time to put America first. And this is a complete betrayal of those campaign promises.
So is that what you're hearing on the ground in Georgia, where obviously there are a lot of Trump supporters?
And then she's told by the CNN, or asked by the CNN reporter, oh, so, didn't you break with Donald Trump because of foreign affairs? And Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, no, like, to be clear, I broke with him because he was covering up child rape. He was covering up child sex trafficking rings. That's why I broke with him, because I wanted to expose the Epstein files. Play this clip.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. Thanks for coming on, Congresswoman. So we all know you were a longtime loyal supporter of President Trump, but you broke with him in part because you felt he was too focused on foreign affairs rather than the America First promises he made on the campaign trail. As we enter day 17 of the Iran war, do you believe the president's voters can trust him?
Well, just to be clear, the president broke with me over the Epstein files. So that always has to be said. He called me a traitor because I stood with women who were raped when they were 14 and 16. But I do completely
All right, now, with Marjorie Taylor Greene blasting Donald Trump and his surrogates as all those Trump surrogates and the state regime media surrogates on Fox utterly failing, what do? All right, Hail Mary right here. They bring in their U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. All right, Matty, what, you going to clean this up? You going to clean up this mess, Matty? Matt Whitaker's like, okay, I guess you can say that we're helping Russia out short term. I guess we're helping Russia out a little bit. But in the long term, this is what you got to do to bring down oil prices. You got to help Russia, which they're going to use to harm Ukraine. Okay, Matt, aren't you supposed to be like the ambassador to NATO? Like, what are you doing? Here, play this clip.
One of the outcomes of this is that Russia is getting more per barrel as the prices go up than they did before. And some of the sanctions have been lifted to keep oil moving, even Russian oil moving, to get those prices to go a little lower. That's got to be heartbreaking for Ukraine as they look at their situation in this war and they see their enemy being emboldened by a rising price of oil because of this.
Yeah, remember, we're 2 weeks into this offensive with Iran, and it does not mean that this is going to last forever. This is a short-term windfall, and certainly the money that Russia would get from relieving some sanctions for oil that was destined and on the water for India certainly will go into Vladimir Putin's war machine. But at the same time, President Trump is balancing world demand for oil. And again, the United States is a net exporter of oil and natural gas. And at the same time, making sure that we can continue to put pressure on the Iranian regime.
And more from Matt Whitaker here, which is like, we need allies and friends that support us. We don't need your help, but we're asking for your help to test you. Okay, here, play this clip.
At the end of the day, the United States of America needs strong and capable allies. And whether that's inside the NATO alliance, which its purpose is to defend every inch of NATO territory, and we've done that by knocking ballistic missiles out of the air in Turkey. But at the same time, we need allies and friends that share our values, that come and support our efforts. And President Trump is right. The United States of America has the most capable military on earth. We don't need the help. However, who benefits from safe passage of oil tankers through the Straits of Hormuz? It is not the United States of America. It is not our taxpayers. And so President Trump is absolutely right. Those that are enjoying the benefits ultimately of free transportation through the Straits of Hormuz should contribute to a coalition. And that includes countries like Japan, South Korea, and it includes China, who gets a lot of their oil from Iran. So, you know what? President Trump took bold, decisive step here. It's going to most likely lead to decades of peace and economic stability in the Middle East. And I see that as a good thing, and our allies should support that.
Wow, Donald Trump's surrogates crashing and burning. Donald Trump in complete disarray. You saw it for yourself. I'm just coming out with the receipts. I'm just playing you what they're saying, right? Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thank you all so much for watching this, and have a good one.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.